So welcome back to another episode, and it's been a little while since my mom passed away, and Mother's Day has come and gone now, and it just got me reflecting on my mom and some of the great times I had with her over the years, and I thought, why don't I do an episode talking about my mom and video games and where she was at with it all, what did she think of me playing them, and give a lot of different stories about a lot of different games and where my mom and me were at that period of time in our lives. What do your parents think of your video game habits? Are they older parents, younger parents? Do they think you're completely crazy playing video games? My parents thought all of those things, so let me know down below. Now, none of these games are in any particular order. They're just the way I want to tell the stories. Now, we have to go back to 1997 for this one, and that is talking about Monster Rancher. This one right here. And in 1997, unfortunately, my father passed away. It was a very hard time for my mom, especially, and for me, and for my sister. It was a very, very difficult time without my dad because we lost my dad very, very early. He was only 54 years old, which is insane. And so we were in this house, and you could really feel that presence was gone. And it was really, really hard. It was really, really difficult. And you just felt the goneness of that person, and it was you couldn't fill it. You just couldn't fill it with no matter what you could do. And I remember it was just me and my mom living in that house at that time, and me and my mom really kind of rallied together at that time, especially with our little dog. And we would sit in the basement and watch movies together and hang out in a way that I don't think we'd ever done particularly that way. I think we really needed each other at that time, and that's where Monster Rancher comes in, which is a really interesting one because I bought it for a very different reason. I bought it because it's kind of like a Pokemon style of game where you can breed monsters and build them up and then you fight them. And I got this game, I know my competitiveness, I bought this game just to fight against Rob. I just wanted him to buy the game as well, and I buy the game, and we build up our own monsters, and we fight against each other, and I want to absolutely decimate him, so I was going to spend a lot of time building up my creatures in this game. And one of the unique features of Monster Rancher here is that you could open up your PlayStation and put in different CDs and generate different monsters. So you could grab your entire music collection, put it in, and it would create a random monster. Yeah, based on that kind of like the data that it read off the disc or whatever. And so you didn't know what you were gonna get. So I'd be sitting there, for hours putting in different CDs to see what different monsters I could create. Because I wanted to create like the ultimate monster. Because you could get rare ones. That was the thing. So I'd sit there for hours doing that. And it's interesting, my mom over the years was always interested in video games. Like she thought they were interesting, I should say, but she would never play them. This was like not beneath her, but it just seemed like something so alien to her. She's like, oh no. I remember trying to give her Mario back in the day. She's like, whoa, oh no. She was scared by it, which I think is really fascinating. But she came beside me, and I was sitting on the floor because that's what I always do when I play video games. And my mom pulled up a chair beside me, and we sat, and I putting in the CDs together. And she was like fascinated by it. And I think it was a comfort that she could hang out with her son. And I was kind of a remnant of my dad. And that was kind of a cool thing. So we became closer in that regard. And we just had a lot of fun generating different monsters and raising them and stuff like that. And my mom would make comments about it and stuff like that. She never got fully into it, but she came together with me and was kind of like helping me with a certain game. And so I'm always got a warm place in my heart for Monster Rancher and some of the fun I had. And yes, I built up my monsters and absolutely destroyed Rob in the future. Now, this next memory is a short memory, but it's a really meaningful one, and it really warms my heart every time I think about it. And that's from 1994, when I finally picked up Lunar on the Sega CD. Right here, this amazing RPG, one that I have not talked enough about on this channel. I know. I sold my entire video game collection at the time to get a Sega CDX and this game. I made my friend Andrew do it as well. He still hates me to this day that he sold his entire collection for Lunar. But to me, it was worth it. I really enjoyed that summer playing Lunar, and great game. And the translation by Working Designs, an overhead, kind of RPG, which was a great thing on CD with CD music, the visuals, everything about it. I really enjoyed. And do you know what? I'm going to talk about another game in a little bit that really reminds me of Lunar, and why I liked Lunar and why I like this other game as well, is that it really encompasses kind of innocence. And that's the main character, Alex, and Lunar herself and his friends, and how they go on an adventure, and they're very innocent at that time. And as they go, it gets more and more serious. And this memory is so interesting. It's funny how some memories stick in your mind, and it's not like particularly unbelievable or, incredible or groundbreaking or anything like that. It's just that I remember sitting in the basement with my brand new Sega CDX playing Lunar, and I'm in that first town, and that music is so beautiful. And I never forget looking kind of up. The sun was coming through the windows, and I should have really been outside getting some fresh air, but heck no, I had Lunar. And sitting in the basement, and I kind of told a story, a similar story about being in the 80s and my mom bringing me a cup of tea and some cookies while I was watching G.I. Joe, and that's a treasured memory for me. And I had the same kind of memory with Lunar. My mom coming down, and I remember she was in a really happy mood, and I remember my family at that time, this is before my dad passed away, it was a very, very happy, everybody was happy, and my dad was out cutting the grass, the sun was out, everybody was in a good mood. And my mom came down, and she didn't hassle me about playing video games. She just said, hey, come on, can't do this. She just brought me some tea, brought me some cookies or whatever it was, some snack, and had a laugh with me. And I never forget that little moments. Isn't that funny? Those silly little moments. I'm 50 years old, looking back at 1994 when I played this game in my parents' basement, and that's the memory that I remember. If you said, hey, what do you do at this level in Lunar, blah, blah, I couldn't tell you, but I could tell you that I had that moment with my mom.
Get off your butt and set out on your own fantastic adventures.
Okay, we have to go back to August 1991. It was the Super Nintendo launch. And was I getting one? Absolutely not. It was summertime. My parents would never just take me randomly to get a video game machine. That would never, ever happen. My friends, a couple of them had it. They had just gone. I'd gone over there and played it at their place and checked out some of the amazing launch games. I was like, oh my God, this is incredible. I didn't want to see too much of it. And my parents would never buy me a machine just in general. They would always wait for my birthday or for Christmas. Christmas was my big thing of the year to get any new game release. And something insane happened. I've mentioned this before, and I'm mentioning it again because I couldn't believe it happened. I went to my parents, and they were both in the kitchen. And I'd asked them for Master Systems and things like that in the middle of summers before, and they're like, get out of town, hit the road. And I ran up and I said, hey, Mom and Dad. And they're like, yeah. I'm like, hey, in Bellis Fair, across the border, we'd actually have to go across the border. In Bellis Fair, they have Super Nintendos. They've just launched. It's a brand new machine for Nintendo. And I'm like, can I get one? And they looked at each other and they looked at me and they're like, okay. And I still look back at this, such an incredible moment. I'm like, who are these people? These are not my parents. They're being replaced by aliens. Aliens that like the Super Nintendo. And I'm like, really? And they're like, yeah, do you want to get going? Do you want to go do it right now? And I'm like, I was like flabbergasted. For me to tell my parents that I wanted a machine, for them to just, change their entire day and take me in their car all the way down across the border into the United States to buy a Super Nintendo and spend their money, they said yes. Oh, what a tear. And that's another beautiful memory I have going with my parents across the border to get the Super Nintendo. Walking up, I'll never forget, walking up to this random toy store and seeing the boxes of all the Super Nintendos all lined up and me grabbing my box and taking it to the counter. I was like such a happy guy. And coming back and playing Super Mario World, that will always remind me of that summer. Again, the sun was out and I was inside playing Super Mario World, and I couldn't believe it. What a summer and what a memory. And then that leads me into 1992 when another big game was about to be released, and it was an expensive game at the time. People forget some of this, especially with these games. They always think of like Phantasy Star being $100 or Chrono Trigger or Final Fantasy. But, you know, I was in the arcades every day grinding, playing Street Fighter 2, you know, with my quarters all the time. And I'd seen in EGM that, guess what? There's a home console version of my favorite arcade game coming home to the Super Nintendo. I couldn't be happier with that news. So I went up to my mom, and we had guests over for the summer from Scotland, my aunt and uncle, and I went up to her and I said, Mom, I'll do anything. I'll mow all the lawns. I'll do everything. You know, can I get $100? Because I needed $100. That's what it cost. It was like $99 to buy Street Fighter 2. It's coming, you know, for the Super Nintendo. It's released, you know, in the next couple of days. Can I get it? And my mom's like, okay. And this is a separate ploy. This is something that I figured out years later, and that is that my aunt and uncle were over. It was my mom's brother, and they got to see me mowing. And my parents had a big lawn, front and back. I did the front and back, mowing the front and back lawn, and they thought I was just doing it for the fun of it. They just thought, oh, what a nice son you have. He's just mowing the lawn. Little did they know that I wanted my paycheck to be able to go get Street Fighter 2 on the Super Nintendo and all that. And that's always been a funny memory. I thought my mom was just being super nice to me, which she was. But there was a catch-22 with it, that it was going to make her look good, that her son was a well-trained lawn-cutting kid that would cut the front lawn and the back on a dime. Well, that dime was $99, and that game was Street Fighter 2. Okay, 1996 was a great year because we got the Nintendo 64, the brand new Nintendo machine. And I had one pre-ordered. I went down to get it, and I picked up Super Mario 64, like a lot of you out there, and had incredible memories playing this game. And I had mentioned this game before. This was the very first game that I ever got that both of my parents took notice of. And that's because Mario was finally 3D. He was 2D before, and you have to remember the times. In 1996, everything was 2D, and all of a sudden, whoa, we got 3D games, like Mario's in 3D? Even my parents knew who Mario was, obviously. And so to see Mario running around in a completely 3D world, my parents were sitting in the basement, and they both kind of sat up in their chairs and were like, wow, it was the first time I'd impressed them. And they were impressed. I remember looking back, and my mom was smiling and my dad was smiling, looking at Mario running around in 3D. I was smiling too. Everybody was smiling back then, playing, Mario 64. I mean, there was nothing like it. I'd never seen anything like that. I mean, we have 3D games now, and they're really fun and amazing, but you'll never have that jump again unless we like plug some kind of cables into our brain and play in 3D that way. But the jump from 2D to 3D was mesmerizing, even for my parents back then, and for like a lot of people, and it was a real game changer. And what a time to be alive to experience that moment. Now, my next story is a bit of a funny one, and I've mentioned it before on the show, and it's for a favorite game of mine. Oh my god, me and all my friends love this game. Back in the day, we all finished it, and that is for Grandia. Yes, I had to talk about Grandia wherever I can, because I adore the game. I loved it, and played the heck out of it that summer when it was released. But I got a demo disc of it at first, and I gotta say this, is that I was in the basement with this demo disc, and it was so fascinating. I put it in, I started playing the game, and I loved it. I just thought, look at the 3D graphics. I mean, you'd not seen anything like this before. And it's just on the PlayStation. It was originally a Saturn game in Japan, but we got it on the PlayStation over here. I remember running around with Justin and Fina and going, this is amazing. Oh my god, look at the way the town moves and all of that. It was a real sign of, the good times to come. This is the PlayStation in full effect. This is like, with its 3D, with everything it could do, we're getting killer games at that point. Amazing stuff. And I remember playing the demo in the basement, and I got to the part where it was the battle music, and I had a stereo system that was pretty crazy at the time, and I cranked it to max. So the battle music was so loud, it was shaking the windows of the house. It was like that ridiculous. It was like, oh my god. And I remember my mom yelling down to me, and it was only like, maybe about 9:30. She's like, John, turn it down. It's too loud. It's too loud. And she wasn't going to bed or anything like that. She was just, and it was too loud. She was absolutely right. But I'm like, Mom, oh, it's so good. I've got to have it this loud. And it's just it's shaking me, shaking the TV, shaking the windows, listening to that music. And it's just such a treasured memory of my mom yelling down, turn the music down. And I'm like, and I'm turning it up, listening to Grandia's battle music.
All right, we won.
So this next game I've talked about too many times, but I can't help but tell a few more stories that I've never told before with it. This is Phantasy Star Online, got released in 2001, and was revolutionary that you could play online with your friends in an RPG in one of my favorite series at that time, which was Phantasy Star. Unbelievable stuff. And my mom came to stay with me, and she really appreciated the music, the pioneer tier music. She always said to me how much she loved Phantasy Star Online's music. It was really a thing. It was actually something that she really enjoyed because she was staying with me for a few weeks and the music was just constantly playing. And the funny things that I remember about this game and my mom there at the time was that I'd made, a bunch of different guy characters and max leveled them, all that kinds of stuff. So I was getting bored. I wanted to make new characters and stuff like that. So I started, making female android characters and stuff like that. And my mom, oh my God, she couldn't get over it. She's like, oh my God, you're making a female character. You're running around as a girl character in a video game. She made such a big deal about it. And I'm like, yeah, so what? It's like a robot girl. Who cares? And all that. She said, are you talking to other people? My mom had such a weird thing about me talking to people online. It's so funny because it's not that long ago. It's about 23 years ago. My mom was like, oh, do you even know who that is? You don't know who you're talking to out there. It was at beginning internet times where people were starting talking to each other. And my mom was like, you don't know, you could be talking to a serial killer or something like that. She had no idea. It was like so funny and all of that. And she was just so perturbed about me playing as any other character than a male character running around. I just wanted to play as like, a female magician character or magic user, like called Dark Fact. Running around, which was like from Ease, a character that I made. I just thought it was kind of a cool thing and all of that. I didn't see the big deal about it, but my mom certainly did. And it's like, oh, you better get offline, stop talking to all these people. She thought it was so weird. And I still think that's a pretty funny one. Now my next one's a quick one. Back to the GameCube launch. I bought my GameCube. I loved it. I was like, this is the best thing ever. I lost my job. I couldn't pay my rent, so I had to go and sell my GameCube back to GameStop, which was EB Games here in Canada at the time. I was so bummed out. I was so upset. But finally, my EI checks finally came in, my unemployment checks came in, and I was able to buy back my GameCube. It was just such a horrible time. And I was able to finally pick up Wave Race and Pikmin. Two amazing games. And I have a lot of memories of my mom sitting there, watching me play. And I think my mom was questioning me going, oh my God, he's lost his job. And he went and bought a GameCube and he's just sitting there playing Wave Race and this weird Pikmin game with these little creatures in a forest. Is my son okay? Like, what's going on with him? Like, what's happening with him? And I always thought that was a funny memory of her kind of questioning me if I was like losing my mind. But it was a real comfort for me back then, and I needed to play those games. It kind of was a bit of an escape from the stress of just losing my job, and trying to figure out what I'm going to do next. And I always thought that's always a memory that always sticks with me.
Nice. Way to go.
And the last memory I want to talk about is quite literally the last game that I played with my mom. And I want to say something. It was really incredible because my mom came to stay with me last year and she sat with me every single day while I played Resident Evil 4, the remake. And you have to understand, my mom has watched me play video games so much over the years and she never wanted to get involved in them, but she liked to watch them and she liked to comment on them and all that. And she sat and watched me play Resident Evil 4 remake from beginning to end.
Copy that.
And the fun memory that I have with it is that Kim was in the other room and she could hear me and my mom screaming at the same times at jump scares. She just heard, ah, from the other room, and me going, ah, but we do it exactly at the same time, playing Resident Evil, the remake, because it was such a great game, and it's such a great memory that I have, and the last memory I have, playing video games with my mom, of us both sitting together on the couch, laughing together, getting scared together, drinking tea together, playing a video game and screaming, and having a great amount of time, playing it. And my mom would go, "Oh, you better get running! Oh my God!" Yeah, guys, those are some of my memories that I want to share today with my mom. Those are the ones that really stuck with me over the years, and I'm so thankful that I had my mom for 50 years. I have nothing but wonderful memories with her and all of that. And I'll ask you guys, what do your parents think about you playing video games? Do they support it? Are they against it? Do you play too many video games? Do you play too less? And they're like, hey, no, you should play more. Are they that type of parents? Let me know down below. So anyways, guys, until next time.